But in Charleston, there's actually two branches. There is the Rivers Avenue branch, and that's where Mr. Poole is coming from today. But there's also a site downtown at the Citadel off of Moultrie Street. So keep in mind that whether you're in North Charleston or downtown, the SBDC can help you. Now, this is what the website look like. You've got the home, you've got the about, you've got the training events, and then, of course, the locations, the information that you will need. What I'm going to start with first before I bring Mr. Poole in is the training events. Now, you will notice that they have both on demand, which are, of course, as the word says, and then you have the live. And from the live, you can take a look by date and with explanations, the kinds of trainings that are up and coming. Now, of course, with the on-demand classes that have already been, and they are broken down by topics and subjects. So you can, of course, go there and find one that is, of course, what you want and what you need. So as I scroll down, you see that there are a number of courses with a number of different topics. So without further ado, cousin, bring Mr. Scott Poole in and let us have him talk to us. Mr. Poole, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you, Daryl?
Man, it's another fantastic day in the low country, and I'm enjoying the hell out of this warm weather, my kind of weather. So certainly thank you for asking, and thank you for being on the show today. I know you've got a lot of things to do, and I'm not going to hold you long. But tell us about you, Mr. Scott Poole, where you from, and et cetera, et cetera.
Sure. Well, I was born and raised in Akron, Ohio. Was there until I moved to Washington, D.C. in 1989. That's when I first got into government contracting. And then ultimately came in South Carolina in 2004. Work experience-wise, I've been in a commercial bank. When I was in Ohio, I was a teller, and then I became a loan officer. And like I say, when I got to D.C., I started getting into federal government contracting. I've been doing that for over 30 years. I've been a chief financial officer, director of finance, director of contracts, and then also at a university. I've been teaching as a junk professor for the last 10 plus years. Teaching finance courses, accounting courses, and courses in contracting as well.
All right. Sound like you've been a pretty smart guy and a busy guy at that. You've done the whole gamut. You know what I'm saying? All right.
It's been interesting.
I know. It sounds like it has. So, ladies and gentlemen, as you see, as I say in the opening, I only talk to people who know what the hell they're talking about. And certainly as Scott outlaid his resume and background, you see the brother knows what he's talking about. So break out your pencil and your paper and start writing stuff down so that you can move your business forward, or you can begin to complete what you need to get your business started. Now, the SBDC, what kind of organization is the SBDC, Mr. Scott? What do they do? How do they help people?
Well, we're a resource for the United States Small Business Administration. And what we do, we provide to people that have been in business and also startup businesses, one-on-one consulting. It'll be in the area of business planning. You know, if you're putting your business plan together, marketing plans, record keeping. We put together financial loan packages. If you're looking and say, I need some working capital to get this thing going. So we'll help you with that before you go to a lender. We have continuing education, just like you showed the different workshops and seminars that we do as well. And we'll co-sponsor them with Chamber of Commerce, different colleges around the area, and also the SBA, to name a few. And when you call us, sometimes you'll need some to make a referral to other agencies, and we keep a log of that. And then finally, we have special purpose programs, and those programs, that's one where I come in here with the government contracting side. I also help out with the loan packaging and going over your business plan. But when you're going for government contracting, especially on the federal side, how do I start? I want to sell to the government. What do I have to do? And we can walk through these as a one-on-one consulting.
Okay. Well, since you brought that up, and since that's what we wanted you to talk about today, your specialty as a government contract specialist. Now, someone comes to you and they say, I got widgets, and man, these are the best widgets in all of the low country. And I want to sell these widgets to the government. Because as you know, Mr. Poole, we've got the Charleston Naval Weapons Station, we got the Charleston Air Force Base, we got the Charleston Coast Guard Base. So we got plenty of government agencies and entities. Walk me through how you're going to help me with selling my widgets.
Well, first of all, I'm going to find out where you are exactly in the process. Do you have that? You're selling these widgets, and the greatest widgets. So you have a base here where you can make a capability statement. Say, hey, this is what I do. So when you go to, you might be doing some networking, some folks that you know in the government. But if you never worked there, first of all, I'm going to say, are you registered on the Systems of Award Management, sam.gov? Now, that's the place you need to go to register before you could do any type of work with the federal government and with the DOD and the different places that you mentioned. But to do that, you're going to want to get the DUNS number, and there's a whole list of items that we'll walk through to make sure you have all that information before you start applying. Now, once you apply and you have those, there are certain things that you're going to sign up for. They're called NAICS codes. That's the North American Industrial Classification System. Now, these different NAICS codes, they identify your product or your services, like the widgets that you're talking about here. So we have certain ones, and I have a NAICS code. There is a 6-number item. And we'll say, okay, well, I could start looking for opportunities then on sam.gov. And I'll say I could find one. And once you find one, you'll say, hey, Scott, I found this solicitation, this request for proposal. I think this is just perfect for me. We could get together and read that proposal. We could get together and say, okay, and then once you put it together, I could look at that before you submit to the government. So, but initially you need to be registered on sam.gov, and we could start there and go forward.
Okay. Now, you mentioned that you guys do all these great things for people who are in the process of beginning the process of course, doing a business. Now, even though contracting is your specialty, and you mentioned that you guys do business plans, are you ever involved with helping someone that comes to you with widgets to sell, looking to sell to the government, but doesn't have a business plan? Or do you refer them to someone else in your office and get them the help they need to get the business plan first, then come back to you to look at capabilities and registering with SAM? How would that work if I didn't already have a business plan?
Well, I get folks all over, and I'll help them. If they don't have a business plan, we can go for that one. Doing your projections, maybe on Excel or any other program that you're using, You should want to have at least 3 years projections out here. So you're showing in your business plan, because I've done plenty of those, through the years, for companies, and also when I was a lender.
Okay.
So I'll take somebody. They might come to me and say, "Okay, well, what's your widget?" I have folks come and say, "Well, I don't really have an idea yet," and we'll start there. Okay, well, you might have some kind of formulation. I say, well, take that formulation, put it down on paper, get that business plan started, because that's the initial baseline that you want. You want to have this, it's kind of like your roadmap for you. And you want to revisit that business plan often. It's just not to get a loan, it's just not to show your financials. It's your plan. It's what you want to accomplish. Maybe year one, you say, "Yeah, I'm just getting started here." Year two, I've got some sales that I made. Now I have a little bit of past performance. I have a couple of years under my belt. Now I'm ready to bring the federal government in and start selling to the federal government as well. So if somebody comes to me, it doesn't matter where they are in the process. We'll start from I don't have an idea to the finished product.
Okay, so you can walk me through the walk and also help me to be able to talk the talk. So now I've got
Absolutely.
the business plan, and I know what it is that I have that I'm going to sell. And so now you mentioned sam.gov. Cousin, bring that website up. Is this what you were referring to, Mr. Poole?
Absolutely, that's perfect. And so when you get there, you see that little button that says "Get Started."
Okay, right here.
If you click that one, it'll go through these 4 little steps below. And it's telling you what you need to, start off with DUNS number. But that's going to be changing April 4th. Yeah, but right now you're getting that DUNS number. You're preparing your data for step 2. You'll get a login.gov account. Then you just finish and you'll submit and then the government will take a look at these. They'll say, "Hey, you're now registered." They'll give you a little letter that you get notarized and send it back, and you're all set.
Wow.
And from there, you could start looking for government contracts, and you could look for other folks that have won contracts and say, maybe, like within you're just starting, you might want to find some bigger companies that you could say, "Hey, well, I'll be a subcontractor with them until you get some more experience, get some more sales under your belt, and then you finally go after prime contracts." So when you're going for these, when you're going for the different contracts, what the government says, well, first of all, can they do the work? That's where that past performance comes in, and the contract officers look at it and say, "Hey, well, yeah, they can do the work." They might be a solicitation. It'll say, "Okay, well, here is our statement of work. Can you fulfill all these things?" And then with the past performance, that just adds more and more to your credibility when you're bidding on these contracts.
Okay. How much time do you normally spend with someone who comes to you, have a business plan, have the widgets, and now ready for you to walk them through the process? On the average, how long would you be working with them to get them from they have the product to registering, to going to SAMS, to determining what they are looking for and then applying for it?
Well, initially, it could be anywhere, initial one for half hour to maybe an hour. And then let all that soak in. And then we could schedule as many meetings. I usually like to do these on Zoom.
Okay.
So they could share their screen, just like you've been doing here. And they'll say, hey, well, I was going through the registration and I got stuck here. Or they might find out later and say, well, I only had 3 NAICS codes that I signed up for. But I see one here that applies. What do I do? And we could go through that as well. You could update SAM several times in a year, but you must do it at least once a year.
Okay.
Now,
Okay.
if you do that, say somebody said, okay, that's our initial, and we go through, we have that solicitation. I'll actually read the solicitation. It might take a couple hours while they're looking at it, I'm doing it. Then we get together and we'll go through that solicitation. Now, in federal contracts, they'll have steps A through M. Now, in step L, that's usually the instructions. They're saying it gets very detailed, even with the paper and the font that you're using.
Oh my goodness.
In the pages, like for your technical side of this, might be limited to a certain amount of pages. Saying don't do any fold outs type things. Even they're mostly electronic. For your pricing, certain amount as well, and also for your past performance. Now, when you go to section M of this, and this is one thing we'll walk through too, it's going to tell you, well, this is how we're going to award this contract. Maybe the technical ability might be 25%, and the capability, your past performance, might be 50%, and the pricing 25%. And this one's the government's put more emphasis on your past performance, and that could change. And it could be sometimes the government's looking for best value. So you're going through here and you're saying sometimes you're competing with other contractors and say, well, my price was better. It was cheaper. Why didn't the government choose me? Well, it could be the past performance, could be the technical ability. Sometimes it's not only price that's a factor that carries more weight. But we could go through all these, and it doesn't matter if it takes in something like this could be long, we'll get together several months. Usually when a solicitation comes out, you have to do your response with no later than 30 days, unless the proposal gets extended. Sometimes there'll be certain amendments that come onto there, but I could be with you, and we'd like to have long term.
Develop that long-term relationship, huh? Yeah.
Indeed.
Now, you said something that was very significant, in that normally when people come to you guys, they sit down with a pencil and a piece of paper, and you guys walk them through as they take notes, ask questions, and you guys respond to it. But you said something that I think was very key and worth going back and repeating, that the best way for you to help someone is for them to actually see the documents and you and that person walk through the process, rather than have them come sit across from your desk taking notes, for them to actually see the forms and you tell them what is happening at each juncture and making sure that they understand and respond appropriately. So Zoom, in your case, is the best way for you to help them. Am I on course, or am I lost somewhere?
We're exactly on course. Because once in that initial meeting that we get together and say, well, I never put together a business plan, I've never done projections, and we could talk about it and go through them, and then give them, I'll say, now when can we get together again so we could go over what you wrote? Look at those projections. Do they make sense? Is it a nice flow? And there's certain section of that business plan that we'll take a look at, and I'll read through that. before we get together, and then we'll get together on Zoom, and I'll place a document up, and we'll just go through it and say, hey, well, maybe you need to beat this up a little bit. Or what did you mean about this item here? When I'm looking at your projections, maybe you have revenues in the out years where it's a big growth, but your expenses aren't correlating. So I say that's an anomaly. It could be happening. You could be having a bunch of fixed price contracts, and as long as you have the wherewithal to get these done, it's just more profit for you. But if it's like a cost plus contract, T&M contract, time and material, there's going to be certain expenses that are going up here. And as you're getting bigger and your infrastructure is changing, you're hiring more overhead managers, might be adding on some more folks in your G&A, general administrative force, in addition to the direct labor force.
Okay. Now, let me ask this. What types of businesses that have come to you that you see are more likely to be the right kind of business for doing government contracts? I know the government buys a lot of products and services, so almost any business would qualify. But as we are writing that business plan, there's probably certain kinds of products and services that you notice, especially within this area, with the government facilities that are here. Which one do you see are more likely to be successful in getting government contracts?
Well, it varies. A lot of them are doing services.
Okay.
It could be a type of an engineering or an architectural. It doesn't have to be. But there's also some folks that I talked to that recently, like a beauty shop.
Okay.
And doing different supplies. When might be something, a baker. Say, what could be happening at the commissary? These different installations. Another big contract, it was providing the like a restaurant with inside the base. And so there's a ton of different items. And we could also look at these. You also look at something with getting a General Service Administration to get a GSA schedule. Said, here's my products. You have a list of these. So at different agencies, the contract offers could go into there. It's already been vetted out to say, hey, well, I'll take this one, this one, this one. It's kind of an easy way to go. In addition to get a contract on your own.
Okay. So you've seen pretty much any type of services. Now, cousin, bring me back up on this website, please. Okay. What I did was, in service, I typed in request for information for food service. And I see here where, of course, there is mobile food services, a RFI. What is an RFI, Scott?
Okay. Well, this is where the government's doing their marketing research. They're saying, can we do this in-house? Do we have to go out? So they'll send out an RFI, a request for information. And so folks saying, hey, this is where that capability statement comes in. Say, hey, I do this, and this is how we could help you. So it's just a little bit of information that the government's sending out here. It's to gather, they want industry comments, maybe a statement of work, might be like what you have here, a combined synopsis and solicitation formatting. So and look at that statement of work with the Forest Service, the Agriculture Department. So in various ones. So that's a good one you're pointing out there, and with that request for information.
Okay. So as I go to the SAMs and as I put in a request for services, I just put in food service because you mentioned that. It'll bring up everything that the government at some point or at this point is looking for people in order to provide the service. Now, cousin, bring me back up again. So now, Scott, as I look at this website, cousin, let me see the website again and then put Scott in the small view, although he's a giant of a guy. Now, with this right here, we are looking for someone to provide, I guess, food service, catered meals to the Army at the Maryland Army National Guard offices through what you apply. How would you recommend to me if I had a food service business, a catering business? I'm catering out of a truck or something like that. What do you see in this particular solicitation for this Department of Defense office and, of course, specifically the Army National Guard in Maryland?
On this one, they're looking for a statewide catering, like saying there, and this is an IDIQ for the fiscal year 2022. And so it's indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity. They don't know how much it's going to be, but they want to look for it, say, hey, I win your contract. I know you can handle it. It might be a certain amount. There might be a value. Say it could be up to, let's just say for sake, the contract value is $10 million.
Okay.
Now, it might not be funded for that entire amount. They say, hey, right now it's incrementally funded.
Okay.
They say it's $500,000 because they know they're going to be able to use this amount. And then as the contract goes on, there might be more into it there.
Okay.
Looking at that notice and reading through the solicitation, you see it was just updated yesterday on here, and it's a pre-solicitation. There it hadn't been sent out yet, so it was updated yesterday. But you can take a look at it, see what it's all about here. So when it comes time to bid, and you see it, it just ended
on yesterday.
Yesterday. That happens.
Yeah.
When you're searching for opportunities.
Yeah. Now, tell me, Scott, as you look at my business plan, and I'm looking at some kind of, bring us up, cousin, both of us. As I'm looking at some kind of business in manufacturing, because my whole thing is I want to manufacture widgets and I want to sell them both to the civilian side and the military side. So usually you are able to look at a business plan and kind of to determine if that person is positioning himself with a type of business, offering a certain kind of product or service, if they would do well in government contracting, or you just take everybody and then kind of help them to consider all avenues of revenue stream. How would you work, or how do you normally work that?
Yeah, well, we take all of them. Like if they're a manufacturer, for example, a company was in leather goods. Now they were leather goods and they were the wholesaler, but they had them in this case, it was international. One country, they're buying skins. Mm-hmm. They shipped that to another country that made it before they came to the United States.
Okay.
And once they got that one, they send them out to their different retailers that are selling them. Like it might be a long leather coat and leather pants, different things of that nature. Mm-hmm. Oh, look at that. Look at the processes. Does that work? Look at how these costs come together. Are they putting everything right into the building up the cost for that? Are they having enough inventory? Well, they're looking at different things. How are you doing that so you don't run out of your supply of inventory? And at the same time, looking at different things, do you have enough inventory so you get a bunch of different sales that you're not going to run out? And if you run out, you're going to lose some customers. So
Right.
we're kind of looking at all that as well when we're doing an analysis, depending on where you're at here. There's some folks, there's one in the office here that does a lot with exporting. And so it'd be something like that. I'd probably refer, when it comes to that, to this gentleman, and he'd help out. We have a different one that specializes in marketing. We have a lot of previous lenders in here, myself included.
Money handlers, huh?
Yeah, money handlers, and when you're looking at those, cash is king.
Uh-huh.
Cash is king. When
Yeah.
you're looking at that business plan, you're following those cash flows. You're making sure that you're not going to get in a bind, and you're like with these government contracts. Say, hey, well, yeah, I won this government contract. It's fantastic. I go, okay, well, usually it'll take 30 days to maybe 60 days before you get in that first payment coming in.
Right. Yeah.
You have the cash flows to sustain your business while you're doing that.
Now,
Might
you
be
mentioned,
like,
I'm sorry, go ahead, Scott. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
oh, that's okay. I said you might be needing a working capital loan, maybe a line of credit, and if you're not getting one with a conventional bank, maybe there's another one that we can suggest you go through.
Okay. What are some of the other agencies that you work with as you are helping someone to get government contracts? Who else are you working with to assist a client?
Okay, right now I'm pretty much, if somebody comes with me and the experience that I've had, I don't really need any other outside help here.
Okay.
Now, I'll refer them to the Small Business Administration, but before I do that, I've already talked to them what to expect. And they might be signing up for, maybe it's a woman-owned small business to get the different certifications. Something like that, for example. If somebody has that and there'll be some contracts, there's certain set-aside contracts that only women-owned small businesses can bid on. So you
Okay.
take a lot of the competition out, for example, and so it comes out as it's a nice plan. Also for veterans, same as well. And disabled veterans, there's certain certifications that you can get. So the folks that have at 51% ownership and some other items we'll go through, they could just get those special contracts that are set aside.
Okay.
So it's a nice thing. But those are all through Small Business Administration.
All
Like I
right.
said, I'll go through and walk them through that as well.
You're just a helpful guy, ain't you, Scott?
Try to be, bro. Try to be.
Hey, just a few more minutes, Scott, and I'm going to let you go. Cousin, bring up this the website. Scott, there is a class on March the 10th talking about Contracting 101. Kind of tell us what Mr. Jones, one of your compadres in your office, is going to be talking about. What are you guys are going to be talking about at this class?
Well, Mr. Jones, he's the one that's setting this all up. This
Okay.
is he's our marketing specialist, if you will. And so the actual class, Government Contracting 101, I'm going to do part of the presentation for the Small Business Development Center, but then through the Small Business Administration, you have Angela Brewer, who's going to do the other part of that. And so we're going to go through these items and just say, what makes a business eligible for government contracting? And the same thing that we've been talking here, registering a SAM, how do I get my DUNS number? What's a cage code? How do I find my NAICS codes? Different
Okay.
items like this.
Okay. So you would encourage anyone and everyone who sees contracting with the federal government as a revenue source to take this class. Is that correct?
Oh, sure. And right now, this one is all full up. So, um, but there'll be other government contracting 101 classes. And like you showed when we first started, there's a lot of pre-recorded ones that have been, if you scroll down on this, where you're at training events, scroll down. And you see all these previous ones here, say like doing business with the Navy. How do I write an effective business plan? Cash flow and credit, to name a few. So all our clients that have registered, they have access to these.
As you can see, ladies and gentlemen, there's a quite extensive list. And as we said, SBA, South Carolina, Charleston, going to the training events tab, clicking on demand are the list of those classes that have already been put on that you can watch at your convenience. The upcoming ones are under the live tab. And as you can see, from the 1st of March and right now all the way out to the 10th of March. And you guys update this website, what, like daily, weekly?
Whenever we have a new event that's going to come on, we update the site.
Okay, great.
Give folks a chance and we market it out so folks can get a chance to sign up for the webinar seminars.
Okay. Well, Scott, before you leave, is there anything else that I didn't ask you or we didn't have a chance to talk about that you'd like to say now before you leave?
No, actually, it was really good. And I was just going to mention when you had our site up.
Okay, it's up. Bring us up, cousin. Bring the site up, cousin. Okay, go ahead, Scott. Okay.
At the upper right-hand side in the black box says sign up to become to receive counseling.
Okay.
You click on that button, there's a series of items that you'll fill out. And then once that's filled out, it'll be signed to one of the consultants here in the office.
Okay. As you can see, I'm already in there because I like taking you guys classes to keep up to date on the latest and the greatest. So this right here is what's going to take us through getting started all the way to area of assistance. And it all began on the home page under sign up for requesting counseling. All right.
That's correct.
All right. Anything else, Mr. Scott Poole, before we let you go to that 2-hour lunch with one martini? Bring us both up, cousin.
I'm pretty good there. No, I think it's very thorough, and I really appreciate being on your show, Daryl. Nice.
I thank you for coming, brother. In all seriousness, you put out some good stuff that I know people can use and will use. Hopefully, they'll use it as soon as possible. Now, before we let you go, how do we contact you?
Okay, and I forgot to tell you, earlier on, I heard you mention 2 locations. The one in here on Rivers Avenue, where I am. Mm-hmm. You mentioned there was one we used to have at the Citadel.
Okay, so it's no longer there?
No, sir.
Okay. Thank you for clearing that up.
That's okay. And if you want to get in touch with me, my email address is sp57@mailbox.sc.edu, and you could call the main phone number here. It's 843-740-6160, or directly it's 843-740-5447.
Okay. Give us that number again, please, sir.
Okay. Directly, it's 843-740-5447.
Okay. And the email again would be?
SP57 at mailbox.sc.edu.
All right. Thank you, sir. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have heard from today Mr. Scott Poole with the Small Business Development Center up there on Rivers Avenue. And of course, it is recommended that you call him and set up an appointment. That way you won't go up there and he's not able to talk with you exactly at that time. But of course, if you set up that appointment, bam, he's there waiting and willing. And as he also said, and let me reemphasize, that once you get into the process, it's going to be by Zoom that he's going to be able to walk you through the process to assist you in your end game of getting government contracts. So, on that note, cousin, bring us up again, please. Thanks, Mr. Scott, for your time, brother. And we'll talk soon, okay?
That sounds good. Thank you, Daryl.
All right. Cousin, take us out of here.